Welcome to Green Healthcare. My name is Johnny from Johnny Knows Costa Rica. Here we have the pleasure of being at a Mexican conference, but in medical tourism, and we have the pleasure of being with Mr. Goyle.
Pleasure meeting you. Thank you very much.
Too. You know what? But you guys see the simplicity of everything that's going on here, but this is really intricate. Mr. Goyle, tell me a little bit about your role in medical tourism, the company, and its trajectory that you have with Placid Way.
Medical tourism industry has been around for a long time. We started the industry about 16 years ago when it was still at an infancy stage. Over the time we have learned a lot in terms of how the consumer behaves, what the demand is, where we need to take the industry, because right now still we are not even scratching the surface of the main industry. So it's a very nascent, very immature industry. I still call it a cottage industry, which has not been corporatized. So I think so we have a long ways to go where we can take this industry to the next step.
The patient experience that you've seen evolve over the years, how's that been?
It's a very good question. Initially, the patients who used to come, they were excited about medical tourism because it was something new and different, and they wanted to engage in the new and different experience so that they can talk about it among their friends. What we are seeing now, slowly medical tourism is becoming a mainstream idea. So mainstream idea is people are looking for more perfection. They are trying to replicate what they have at home. So they want to have the same experience when they travel, which requires a lot more demand in terms of how they want to be treated, how the process should be there, how the consultation needs to be done differently. So they want to have a lot more organized systems compared to the initial people who will excuse the mistakes somebody is making or just wanted to have the experience of going outside the country.
How do you see the countries like we're here in Mexico, and like myself in Costa Rica, how do you see it evolving in those Latin American countries versus the European or the Asian market of medical tourism?
It's a very important thing to understand the consumers. I think so the industry is still not understanding how to deal with the patients that are going to continue to seek medical travel and why. I think so in the industry there is a still big assumption that patient is ready, bags packed and ready to travel. And that's not the case. The case is we have to really reach out to the customers, the patient base, and educate them on what is possible, and then have all the processes aligned so that the experience is exceptional. That's when a lot of other countries we see are catching on. I think so Latin American countries has to accept that fact that they have to evolve from where they are. Because if they don't evolve, somebody else will do it. And you can take parallelism with other industries like manufacturing, when, let's say, Mexico assumed that Americans will never go to China, but they did because the cost difference and the processes were much better than what Mexico had to offer. Now things are changing back, but again, after 20-25 years of exporting things from China to US. So we see the similarity in different industries, what's happening and how the consumer behavior or the business behaviors are changing.
So you think the compliancy or being complacent in a country will set them outside the market, or they could be irrelevant tomorrow?
Absolutely. Yeah, if they don't evolve, they don't innovate in the industry and understand the consumer base, they will be extinct like other industries have done it in the past.
How about the complications? Because I'm sure in the many years that you've been in the industry, how is Placid Way taking the complications that could happen and helping those providers to adapt?
Right. Again, complications happens in every country or region, whether it's America, whether it's Mexico, whether it's India, whether it's Turkey. The key is how do you prepare for that? How do you educate the customers for that? I mean, you can have new products like we have complication insurance and all those things that can be availed to the customers. But the complications is the nature of entity that happens in any business, whether it's medical business or take even manufacturing business or any other business. There are going to be setbacks when you take things out of the normal system to another system. So what we need to do is prepare. So how do you prepare for that? How do you have the consent and education to consumers that what can happen, and then prepare the centers in medical tourism countries, for example in Mexico or Latin America, they need to be prepared how to address those complications. So the process has to be in place. So if the complication happens, this is what we are going to do. These are the process points that they need to adopt. So that's one thing that is not very clearly defined in medical tourism. Also, there is no aftercare, right? What happens when the patient completes the procedure and goes home? Who takes care of it? So if you look into continuum of care from the time the customer starts the process till they go back home, how do you optimize that process overall? And there's not much effort that has been made in the aftercare or the complications as you're talking about.
Lastly, pricing.
Right.
We're, I think as patient advocates, pricing and cost, how does Placid Way, with your consumers, how do you justify a price from Latin America or from Turkey or from another country? How does that play into the part when choosing a provider?
A very good question. Again, pricing, as you said, very rightly so, is the crux of any business, right? Whether you look into travel industry, if I'm selecting a hotel, or I'm looking into all-inclusive resorts, or I'm looking into cruise, or I'm trying to fly an airline, it's the same thing. I compare, contrast before I buy, right? So pricing depends on different variables that are there in a product that somebody's trying to sell. There are different attributes of that product. So pricing is a strategy that needs to be very carefully thought from the provider perspective, and need to understand what the consumer can afford, and there needs to be a match. So as a portal, what we are trying to do is to create a price transparency, because that's the most important thing in the industry. In order to grow, there needs to be a lot more transparency in pricing, which needs to say, okay, if an American or Canadian is trying to go outside the country, they are going outside the country because of the price difference, right? They want to save money, or something that is not available in the country. So overall, what we are trying to do is trying to figure out what that pricing strategy needs to be, not just I want this money and I can have something. So there needs to be a scientific or proper understanding of how the pricing mechanism should work, and it needs to be fair and transparent so people can see it, compare it, and that's where the industry is going to go, because people are going to demand. The first thing they're going to demand is what is the price, so that they can start their journey by understanding whether they can afford it, it's worth going for something, and there's a lot of science to it, and I think so industry is not ready to go that far yet, but that will be the evolution that we see.
In summary, how do you view medical tourism in the dental side and the medical side, and who's farther ahead? Is it still the dental side?
Dental side definitely is. It's more demand is there, because again, that's one thing that you can compare cost easily. What's locally available versus where you need to go. Dental is there. Again, it's a different market, but also dental market is a very commodity-based market now. Commodity-based market means people don't sort of look for real quality. From American and Canadian perspective, in their consumer mindset is quality is assumed. Means they understand that if they're going and accessing something, quality will be there. Although they're not fully educated, but that's how the perception of these people are. So the main factor becomes, three things becomes more important. How can we educate them? How can we do a better customer service to educate them further in terms of what to look for, how to evaluate the materials they're going to use, things like that. And then also the pricing. So if somebody's charging too much or too little or whatever, we need to educate why it is too much, why it is too little, so that we can have an educated customer base so that they can buy a product that fits their needs, whether it's the pricing, whether it's the quality, whatever it is.
Making good decisions based on good information.
Data. Right. That's very important.
Sir, it was an absolute pleasure. I think a company like yours that has spanned, how many countries are you in now?
We are over 50 countries now.
All 50 countries?
Pardon?
How many countries?
Over 50 countries.
50 countries. That's quite an undertaking.
Thank you.
So those of you thinking of having, not just us, there's companies like, you should go here with 50 countries under their belt. You know, they have the experience of going there, doing the things. And if you're looking to do medical tourism, look them up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Again, pura vida and always be safe.
Thank you.